Unscripted, unrehearsed, welcome to Talking Element. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to episode 5 of Talking Element, where we are going to discuss Acts Part 2, Week 38, Lifestyle Evangelism. And tonight, Aaron and I are joined by Pete Newman. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
No, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be asked.
You're headed out of town, so we snagged you just in the nick of time.
That's right.
Nick of time, that's cool.
Yeah. Maybe you're getting a shipwreck because your RV is so big it's like a ship.
No, we have enough shipwrecks in our lives right now. We don't need another shipwreck. Yeah.
Would you mind just doing a quick introduction?
I'm Pete Newman. My wife and I have been attending Element probably for 7 or 8 years, if I had to guess. I'm bad with time. I don't know what else to say. I miss going to church terribly. So,
would you mind starting us off with a quick recap of the message?
Today we're covering this thing, I'm calling it lifestyle evangelism, and this is where Paul actually goes down in the ship. Now, lifestyle evangelism has rightly gotten a lot of critiques against it, because some people think I just need to live my life a certain way. I never need to talk about Jesus. But if you don't talk about Jesus, no one's going to know why you're actually living the way that you do. So it needs to be with our lifestyles and with our words both. And that's what you see take place today. Paul is someone who knew that he had God's presence with him every day. He knew he belonged to God, and so he lived out that call in his life to be a missionary no matter where he was. And so you see him live the right lifestyle with words and actions in everything he did that even saw him through that shipwreck of what happens today.
So talking about shipwrecks, I wanted to kind of begin there. You alluded earlier that you have a bunch of shipwrecks in life. What would be a couple examples of?
Well, we have a granddaughter that was born 3 weeks ago. All right. And she's born in San Luis.
And full size though, right? I mean,
like
she's
9 pounds,
yeah.
10 ounces. I'm going to get in trouble when my wife watches this because I don't know these statistics, but big. She's a big kid. Born in San Luis, taken to Marion Hospital, flown to Madeira, and then flown to Stanford.
Right. Okay. Children's Hospital then.
Children's Hospital,
yeah.
Which is, they're awesome places if you've never been there. It's awkward now because of COVID, one person at a time, and only the parents can go. So, we made 3 trips to Madeira to sit in the parking lot, which is kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is cool. What are we doing here? But major shipwreck, right? So originally she was going to die. That's why she ended up going up there. But everything went well there. Now they're just trying to get her regular to her blood or heartbeats regular to where they can give her medicine and send her home. But a big shipwreck. So I function better on big shipwrecks than little shipwrecks. So little shipwrecks, maybe there is no lifestyle evangelism, right? I'm just keeping to myself, doing whatever, and you wouldn't know by my actions that I'm a Christian, okay? Because I'm not talking about it. So now all of a sudden, big shipwreck comes, and somebody needs to be a little bit of a leader, okay? So I'm being a little bit of a leader, and I have faith around a bunch of people that don't. I mean, people that don't buy candles or buying candles, right? And burning candles, hoping that the candle's somehow going to save
By the way,
Demi's life.
Do you want us to cut that out?
No. I'm fine with that because I've had that discussion. But if I showed my faith more during a little shipwreck, it wouldn't seem maybe almost a little out of place during the big shipwreck. So then it might look like, my faith might look like me not caring almost. And you know what I mean? It's not me not caring, it's me having faith that God's in control. Sometimes we don't like what he does, but he's in control. But it didn't look like I acted that way 2 weeks ago, right? So now...
So you have in the little things like with maybe something happens with a job or this
Right.
thing, this wall fell over in this
Right.
place that we built or whatever. And it's like, oh, you just kind of navigate through that to when it's a big thing, like, well, where'd this come from? Where'd this faith come from? I thought,
Right. There's a little bit of that, and
Yeah.
and I think everybody in our family they know how I am, but I'm not loud about it. Okay. And now I find that I'm needing to be a little more out there about it because there's too much confusion and too much it's the end of the world sort of thing attitude going on.
I find this really interesting because when we talked about who to bring on as a guest, you popped up in both of our minds. And
For
I think
lifestyle evangelism.
He said
Right.
because I understand what you're saying about the big versus the minor, and I think that's because a lot of times you have faith, and
Right.
so when the small stuff hits, you're like, okay, we're just moving
This is
forward.
life. We're just going to go.
But you are somebody who, even though you're quiet and you do it probably more one-on-one, I see you gathering and protecting. You have this awesome way of being steady, week to week, month by month. That I don't know. I want to give you credit for or something.
Now,
Right.
granted, there are times your son's like, oh, he's not always like that.
Right.
You know?
Sure. No, and
He goes, I've seen my dad
and I'm
mad.
not, but no, but here's Brad and Michaela. So their baby's up in the Madeira. They think their baby's dying. I've never prayed other than I married them, right? But I never prayed. I never pray with Brad and Michaela, and they don't pray. Michaela's not praying for understanding. She's not praying. There's
It's not, God,
There's-
what can I learn as we go through
yes,
this?
it's I want, and I have something on my phone, and I must have heard it from you. I don't know why.
Well, you know why.
I read it every day.
It's probably not for me.
Sin is the desire to have everything go our way. Yeah, it is. So I don't know what the final outcome of Demi, what her life will be like, but right now, we got more than we asked for. We asked God, we want her to be alive, and she's alive, and it doesn't look like she's going to die. Everybody's frustrated and mad because she's still in the hospital, but it's like, hey, our wish came true. Our wish came true. I mean, praise God. I mean, we're still down on him because she has to spend some time in the hospital. We got to drive to Stanford. It's inconvenient. I mean,
Well,
whoopie-doo.
many times that's what we do, though. We have this idea of God. If I would believe if God just did this, and then sometimes where God does that thing, and it's like, I'm still mad at him. He needs to do this, and then
Right.
sometimes where God does that thing, it's like for us, it's never enough. And I think that's one of the reasons why God allows shipwrecks in our lives, because it teaches us to learn it's not about us. It's life is ultimately out of our hands.
Right.
And so we have to trust him in the midst of what we go through. And too often, it's like when he asked the question last week about, why does God allow shipwrecks? Why wouldn't God just take it away? And really, we're always trying to put God into our own little box and saying, if God does this, well, then he gets to be God. Well, God's like, that's your box.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
Now let's talk about who I really am.
Right.
And people don't like that because we want to control him, and he's not controllable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The plus out of all of it is, and I think I told it to Michael, was Michelle and I are spending more time, and it's like, honey, we are off track. I mean, if we were on track, we would be talking about this stuff all the time, and we're not. We're not talking about it. I mean, we're holding hands and we're praying with Brad and Michaela. But when's the last time we prayed with Brad and Michaela? It's the day they got married. That's the last time. The last time. This will fade away, right? And then we go back to the. It's not a big shipwreck, so we're not being a lifestyle evangelist. But Michelle and I we've talked about it. We talk about it daily now. It's like this needs to be more present in our lives. Everybody, we went camping. Michael, you went camping. Kate and Fergie, they know we're Christians. They know church is a big part of our life, but we don't share it with them. I don't want to beat them up with it, but we could share it with them a little more, and we just don't. Anyway, so I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Aaron, how about you? Any shipwrecks?
I think that, one of the biggest shipwrecks that Marianne and I had is probably our first year of marriage. We got married really quick. I think we dated 3 months, got married 3 months later, and then I took a job. We moved to Iowa from California, right? I don't recommend it for anybody. And it is, Iowa's tough, especially newly married, figuring out life with each other, because everyone, everything you watch on TV is, oh, marriage is easy. Oh, it's just you love each other. Everything works out. It is not.
Right.
It is like, we don't like the same type of toothpaste, and I didn't know I don't like people to watch me put on deodorant, and all these weird things start happening trying to work out life, and then we're in a place where we don't really have anybody, and we're alone. And my job is stressful, and she didn't get this job that she was supposed to get, that they promised her, and I mean, and then plus, I act like a little kid half the time. And through that all, and all these fights that we had, it really made me begin to understand what God was more calling me to. And there are still scars in our marriage from those first few years because of how I acted and how I treated her and the things that I said and did that today are still there. Now, sometimes we'll get in a fight now, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, that's because I do, and I'll think through it really quick, right. And so I've learned something from that. But the shipwreck of that caused me to, learn how to pray more, how to treat her better, how to look with compassion on people who are struggling in their marriages. And but I would never have known that imagine you get married and our marriage just goes perfect. I'm like, what's wrong with all those other losers? No, right. I'm like, oh, we're all losers.
Right,
we all need help from one another. And
right.
I think that's probably, the biggest one is how that wreck still has reverberations even to this day that I'm still learning from.
Mm-hmm. Goes back to that we are object-oriented, mm-hmm. and God's process-oriented, and even the process decades later is still, he's still working.
He can stop processing this one if he would just...
How can we as friends and as Christians, helping one another in general, help with, I think a lot of it is remembering, right? That the C.S. Lewis quote, that the hardest thing is to kind of come awake and stay awake. To remember and to keep remembering, and it sounds like for you, there's been an awakening of importance in life, and so how can we help when that importance begins to fade? Because I think it will. That's part of this journey, right?
I think it's helpful many times to look at other people's shipwrecks around us as well, because that also offers us opportunity to step into, not in trite ways where you're just throwing out some, little tidbit of something, but you can actually step into the pain and into the trial that someone's in,
yes.
and begin to live a little bit different there. Sometimes those shipwrecks allow us to step into harder places.
Well, you said something earlier, or when you were talking up there about, we really are. This is all just a gift, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we were all dead. Mm-hmm. So this is all, anything we get from then to now is something we don't deserve, right? There's that song, and I rely heavily when I'm driving on the song, but it's Bebo or Babel Norman, I am nothing without you. Mm-hmm. I mean that, I listen to that song every day. Mm-hmm. It's because it's
you sing along?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I can't turn it off and sing because I sound too bad. But as long as it's up loud, I think I sound really good. But if you ever heard him too, if you ever heard him talk about that song, I mean, listen to him talk about it. It sounded what you're talking about today, really.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you both for a great conversation and being honest and open.
Okay, hopefully it went good.
No, it did. It went great. And so that's it for us this week, and we'll be back next week with someone else in the hot seat.
All right. Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
You know what's funny is no glad. I actually probably got that from him.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, you're wearing that mechanic shirt, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm wearing a mechanic shirt.
So you're gonna be a plumber?
I'm gonna be a bowler.
You're gonna be a bowler.
A bowler.
All right.
Aaron the bowler. No, I don't know.